Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mechwarrior episode 374. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Hi, Saturn.
Hi.
God, we've done so fucking many of these.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit. I don't think there's very few things I've done 374 times. Sleep, watch Dumb and Dumber, eat cereal. Like, there's only a small handful of things.
Yeah.
that I've done 374 times.
It's a lot. It's a big number. And
it just seems crazy.
Every time it looks like a bigger number, too.
It just is something. Yeah, like, it's just a lot. It's a lot of episodes. I mean, man. Anyway, we don't have any housekeeping this week, except that we did a lot of these, so you can go listen to them. If you want to.
We've been doing this for more than 7 years now.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I can't think. I don't think I've ever worked a job for 7 years of my life.
I don't think I have either. This show's older than my kid and almost as old as my marriage.
Yp. Because I remember you had your kid shortly after we started.
Yep, because I remember the episode was called Post Baby Grab Bag.
That's true.
Which, in retrospect, is a very strange sounding title. But yeah, that was because I had my kid, and I was like, we gotta record, but I don't know what we're gonna talk about because I've not slept, and I still haven't slept.
Yeah,
since
7 years. And you haven't slept
7 years. That's my perpetual dad joke. Anytime I'm tired, I go, man, I'm so tired. I feel like I've been tired and then I say the age of my daughter.
Right.
So I'll be like, I feel like I've been tired for almost 7 years.
It's only a proper dad joke if you also do the dumb laugh afterwards.
Yeah, the like dumb nudging, winking laugh where you're like, acknowledge my humor, please.
My dad's favorite dad joke when I was growing up was farting as loud as he could and then saying, "Oh, there's a baby elephant under your chair," or "There's a barking spider under your chair."
Yep.
There's always so many barking spiders. I've never encountered one in real life, but he assured me they were everywhere.
My dad was more into the physical comedy. He'd walk up behind you and then stick his fingers in your nostrils and pull your head backward so that you'd fall down on the ground.
Damn, that sounds aggressive.
It sounds more aggressive than it was. I swear. Because when someone's got you by the nostrils, you don't resist at all. You just give in. It's just your body's natural inclination is like, all right, I'll just fall on the ground.
Now I can't breathe and I'm moving.
I turned on my Switch for the first time since
ever.
Since not long after I got my Steam Deck. Actually, maybe before the Steam Deck. So it's been a few months.
Mm-hmm.
I was having kind of a contest with myself to see how long I could go to see how thick the layer of dust would get on it. And it got comically thick. Yeah. And then finally I was like, all right, I'm going to play some Switch.
When you started playing it, did you replace the Joy-Con so that those previous Joy-Con could continue collecting dust?
Well, no, because my Split Pad Pro was on it, and that's literally the only way to play Nintendo Switch. I don't know how I could ever go back to Joy-Cons.
Well, there's the new Split Pad coming out.
There is. Oh, yeah, there is.
Yeah, the one that is slightly more Joy-Con shaped.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to like that. Yeah. I really, man, the Split Pad Pro is just so extremely comfortable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if it had internal batteries and rumble, it would be literally the perfect controller. As it is very, very close to being the perfect controller.
Yeah. So I turned it. I don't even remember what my goal was, what I was going to play, but I turn it on and I end up firing up Fire Emblem Three Houses because everyone's like, it's the best Fire Emblem, and I liked Awakening a lot. And so I was like, all right, well, I got my Switch. I'm going to play it. I wait in line every day for an hour to pick my daughter up from school.
Yeah.
And that has become my time to read books and play my Steam Deck.
Right.
So this time I took my Switch and my Steam Deck because I wasn't going to totally put all my eggs in the Switch basket. It's a whole hour, mind you. So I show up to wait for her to get out of class today, and I'm sitting there, and I start playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. Yep. And it's fun. It's very front-heavy tutorial, like lots of like go around, talk to everybody, talk to this person, go talk over there, cutscene, tutorial battle, more tutorializing, go talk to more. It's
very early 2000s JRPG.
So much preamble to get into this game.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. It's intriguing enough, even though it's doing that thing where it's just like front loading lots and lots and lots of kingdom names and names of different like dukes and kings and people and princes and heirs,
Right.
and I'm like, I don't know.
I haven't decided what I like more, when games do that or when they don't do that and then give you an in-game glossary expecting you to do your own research as you play. I haven't decided which of those I prefer, but I don't really like either.
I'm more okay with the glossary because sometimes you can skim over it.
Right.
And so
just
you
guess from context clues.
Yeah, you skim over it, and then when you're like, all right, I probably should look up what that is, then you just so then you only get the information you need. And I'm always in favor of that.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there playing it on my Switch, and the screen is not bright enough because I'm in my car, so I'm near the outdoors, and it's sunny, and I can't fucking see anything except my own dumb face looking down at my Switch. And the screen is just so tiny, and I'm like, am I just like being extra critical? Because I'm like, well, I got a Steam Deck now, and I'm fucking fancy. So I go, well, wait a minute. I have 3 houses on my deck in Yuzu. So I take my deck out, and immediately...
You brought your Switch to play a Switch game, and then immediately start playing the same Switch game on your Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So I take it out, I turn on the 60 FPS lock for the game, I upscale it with FSR, I put it in dock mode, and I full screen it, and I'm playing it, and the screen is a million times bigger, better, brighter, I can see everything. It's just so nice. The problem is there are minor graphical glitches in the emulated version.
It's an emulator.
And they're really super minor and only in some specific areas, but just still bothering me.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sitting there with my deck and my Switch out in my lap. I played through the game to get to the same spot in both of them. And I'm just running around comparing the performance and visuals and mentally weighing these options of like, well, do I put up with the graphical glitches for a much bigger, superior, brighter screen for whenever I'm sitting for my hour a day, which is when I'm going to do most of my playing? Or do I go for the smoother experience on the Switch, but be okay with the lower quality screen and frame rate? And I'm just like on and on and on. And then it's time to pick her up. And I like didn't even fucking get anything done.
Nowhere.
And I was like... So like I've got a lot of money invested in the Switch. And I've got a lot of Switch games. And I'm not going to like throw my Switch in the garbage or sell it or whatever. Like there's a lot of stuff on Switch that I really like. I want to keep it. I'm not playing much Switch right now, but give it a year, right? And so then I'm like, well, maybe the OLED Switch looks better. Like maybe if I were to upgrade to the OLED Switch, because I theoretically, and this is what I did with the 3DS, I want to keep my Switch and my Switch library in the long term.
Right.
So my 3DS, whenever I got to the point where I was like, hey, I'm not really playing this much, I'm kind of retiring it, I bought a new 2DS XL.
Right.
And so this is my like long tail, like, all right, now whenever I want to come back to the 3DS in a few years, I've got a nice... in good condition, because my old one was beat to shit. It got carried to work and class and everywhere for years. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll get the OLED Switch and the screen will look better. And I'm sitting there shopping for the Switch, and I'm like, Justin, you don't even like the Switch. A slightly better screen is not, and then I get home and I'm like, just put it on the fucking dock and play it on the TV and quit being a psycho about it. And I have too many options. I have too many options available to me, Saturn.
So it's like choice paralysis, but not even with games, but with platforms on which to play the games.
And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, and I was like, well, what do I like about the Switch? I was like, well, I can hook it up to my TV. And I was like, well, I can hook my deck up to my TV. And then I hook my deck up to my TV.
Yeah.
And I'm playing Sniper Elite 4. It's just the first game I picked. Yeah. So I'm like, I hook it up to my USB-C hub. I get it all on there, get a controller going. And I'm like, oh, when you take a game on medium settings and put it on the TV, it kind of looks like shit.
Yeah.
Because, it's stretched from 800p to now displaying in 4K 30.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, I could play Sniper Elite on my Xbox that's right next to my deck. And I just cannot stop going into this fucking rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then I think I talked about it on the pre-show. I was looking at Dragon Quest 11. I was like, oh man, that'd be fun to play on deck. And then I'm like, I have it on Switch. I have 70 hours in it on Switch. And it's the deck is a port of the Switch game.
It is.
It's the exact same.
But it supports 4K.
But I'm not going to play it in 4K. I'm going to play it on my deck in 800p.
Yep.
So I don't.
Yeah.
And then finally, I just turn everything off and watch Netflix. Because like I can't just fucking get out of my own goddamn head long enough to just play a game. And it's this thing I have where I just constantly want everything on one thing. But that one thing also has to be the most functional, versatile thing. Because if I just want everything on one thing, I would just buy everything on PC and play it on my PC.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
It's all on
But
there.
my PC is not versatile and as functional as a Steam Deck.
You should just get a laptop.
Well, but that's not as versatile and functional as the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
The Steam Deck is smaller and more functional.
You should get bigger hands. And then a laptop.
I should just sit down and play a fucking video game.
That is true. There is that part of it, yeah.
And it's like I cannot do it.
Because you're stuck in your head.
Because I'm stuck in my own head. Because I'm sitting there in line playing Fire Emblem, enjoying it, mind you, and going, well, this screen isn't as bright as my deck screen. Instead of just like angling it upward a little bit so I don't get as much glare or,
when you were first talking about like picking the different system on which to play it, I was trying to think of any parallels I've had, and I was remembering like back in the day when I had gotten SNES 9X, or I think it was still SNES 96 to work on my 486 at like barely playable speed using my keyboard only because it didn't support the gamepad that I had at the time. Playing a game that was on my Super Nintendo in the room with me, but I was like, nah, this way I can still watch Married with Children while I play. So I intentionally chose the shittier option so that I could watch bad television. So,
But see, that's versatility. I don't know. I just need to I just need to stop. I just need to stop. I have this problem.
You just need to pick one and stick with it.
I was in Walmart the other day. My cat has started losing weight and she's getting older, and I'm worried she's having trouble eating kibble. So we put her on. I bought some cans of wet food, and then she liked it. And I was like, it's going well. She seems to be putting some weight back on. So I was at Walmart, and I was like, well, I'll buy a bunch of wet food because that seems to be what we're going to be giving her now.
Right.
And I'm standing in the aisle, and there's 100 different brands. And instead of just going, I don't know, this one, not the cheapest, not the most expensive, middle of the road, notable brand, probably okay.
Right.
I'm literally in the aisle, and I find myself Googling best wet cat food brand. And I'm like four paragraphs into an article when I have this like epiphany, and I'm like, Justin, just buy some fucking cat food.
Right.
Just flip it around, look at the ingredients, say, oh, crude protein. I don't see anything in here like Kentucky Fried horse buttholes or sawdust or whatever. Right. Just that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I can't turn it off, man. I don't know what's going to happen to me.
I was so worried when I got my cat because they give you a little bag of food with your cat. I learned it's just a free bag of food.
Sweet.
Also, I got my cat on free cat day where they already give them their shots and they already spay them. And then they're just like, here's your free cat. Here's her documentation. Here's a bag of food. Here's a bag of toys. Take a cat.
Goodbye. Yeah.
And so I had the bag of food, but as we were leaving, because my friend used to work at the shelter and she had friends that worked at the shelter, as they gave me the bag of food, and in my mind, I'm like, ooh, free food for the cat. The cat will have food. My friend's like, oh, they still give that shit. And her friend is like, yeah, no fucking cat likes this. Sorry. And I'm like, oh no, it's bad food. And I get home, and like the first time I give her food, I'm like, she's going to hate this. And she just scarfs it the fuck down. And I'm like, oh, good, my cat likes the bad food. And then when I go to buy more food for the cat, I'm like, well, she likes the bad food. I'll look at that one. And it's like one of the more expensive brands. And I was like, oh, it's the expensive brand food. But I had a coupon, so she still gets expensive brand.
I don't know what it is about my brain. I can't just sit and enjoy an experience when I know that there's a chance it could be a little bit better.
There are times when I do that too, so I definitely understand it. But there are other times where I'm just like, I just want to sit down and just veg and play this game for 4 hours in a row.
Yeah, I struggle. Real hard with it, you know. Anyway, that's
even
my week.
Games
Play
I
some
don't
Fire
even
Emblem
like
Three
that
Houses.
much, apparently.
Started it. It was fun.
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
I somehow talked myself into buying the Saints Row reboot.
Oh, I have heard that it is terrible.
I don't know that I would say terrible. So,
well, I take it back. I've heard that it is terrible because it is so bland and such a step back from the more recent ones.
I will agree with most of that. So
the level of terribleness was driven home in that it's terrible because of how fucking bland and broken it is. So is what I've heard.
I had gotten the email from my credit card saying because I made that purchase of the PS5 for $500 fucking American dollars.
Yeah.
That I had
now soon to be more.
Right.
Well, not American dollars.
So I got the email saying, here's your points. It's $56 to spend on Amazon, or less than that to spend elsewhere. And as soon as I got that, I happened to open up Amazon, and there was an advertisement for the new Saints Row on the new systems. And I had an Xbox, and I was like, I want something to play on my Xbox while I'm also playing my PS5.
Yeah.
So, fuck it. Let's get it. It's coming out. I'll get it. And first of all, I do want to say it has very granular difficulty settings, which is great. I like that.
Fantastic.
It's not quite as granular as Horizon is, but it's still got some granular difficulty settings, and that's great. It also has super granular display options, which I am not used to seeing on a console game.
Interesting.
Like, it lets you set 4K or 1440p or 1080p. And for 1440p and 1080p, you can specify prefer frame rate or prefer presentation. Mm-hmm. And in presentation mode, it looks great even at 1440p. Like, not quite as good as the 4K, but at 1440p, it also supports HDR and all kinds of other fancy things that the 4K mode doesn't. However, I've learned that at all of these, including at the high frame rates, it's not quite consistent 60 frames a second, which is fine for me because as long as it's more than 30, I'm fine with it. So I've set it to 1440 prefer graphics, and it looks fine to me. It seems fairly stable, There are times when it has dipped a bit. There are times when it has crawled a little bit. Also, there are times when graphics have just disappeared into other graphics.
Oh, okay.
It looks very pretty at a glance, and then if you look at anything in detail, it looks like it is a PS3 360 era game that just has like a Vaseline layer on top of it to make it look 4K.
Like it's just been bilinear upscaled.
Right?
To where it needs to be.
Also, the pop-in is awful. Like, the pop-in for cars or like scenery or buildings or whatever, great. However, the game takes place in the Mojave Desert area, and so there's a lot of like desert areas where there's a lot of grass, and it just pops in like right in front of you.
This sounds like a bad game, Saturn.
The gameplay itself is basically Saints Row the Third.
Okay, well that's good. I'm okay with that. Because Saints Row 4, I think we both agree, went a little too over the top.
Yeah, I still enjoyed Saints Row 4, but it definitely went too far over the top.
I played it and enjoyed it too, but I think Saints Row the Third was the sweet spot of over the top silliness gameplay without going too far.
And for me, the one after Saints Row 4, which was Gat Out of Hell, that was where it continued to get over the top, but to the point that it was no longer enjoyable to me. But Saints Row 4, I still enjoyed. It was just stupid. And not in the fun, stupid way that Saints Row always is. So this one tries to be more down to earth. It tries to be a little more realistic, but it's still goofy and dumb. Gameplay-wise is basically exactly Saints Row the Third, but I've already played that game.
Yeah.
But it's Saints Row the Third on a smaller scale. Like the city is bigger, but like the scale of your criminal organization is smaller because like you're living in an apartment and it's a bunch of Zoomers or younger millennials, and it's very clearly a game that is written by people in their 40s trying to write characters that are in their late teens, early 20s.
Oh no!
And there are so many like. Oh, how was your day? I don't know. It's too busy worrying about my student loans.
Straight bussin'.
Yeah, it's just so awkward.
This sounds like a bad game, Saturn.
The gameplay is fine. The writing and whatever fucking graphic engine they tried to make for it are not fine.
So let's average this out. The gameplay, not amazing, but okay. Everything else, below okay.
Yeah, I would say if this had released as like a $30 budget game and they were like, hey, you remember Saints Row? We're still that funny and here's Saints Row. Then I'd have been like, yeah, for $30 this is all right. For $70, I cannot recommend it. For the $15 that I paid after getting my free monies from my PS5, I'm like, whatever. I got my $15 worth out of it. But it's I struggle to recommend it for more than $20 to $30.
Oof.
I also started playing Death Stranding since it's on Game Pass now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I've been wanting to play that, but I didn't want to put money into it because I don't know.
Yeah. So it's on.
I just don't know.
It's on Game Pass for PC, not for Xbox, because there isn't an Xbox port because it is a game published by Sony Interactive. But the PC version is on Game Pass now. And so it is gameplay wise. It's basically just, collect a thing, go to a place, avoid the enemies. And the interface and everything is really neat. The graphics are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous game. And it's a lot like darker, not quite creepy, but like very dark, and a lot darker than I realized it was going to be.
Yeah.
And the enemies themselves are very disturbing. What I expected going into it and was still not prepared for was the amount of Kojima nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Because, oh man, he brought his A game and was not filtered. It is instantly, like from moment one, just a bunch of people with no introduction babbling at you in words that are not English. And I don't mean they are another language. I mean, they pretend they're English, but they're nonsense words.
Yeah.
And sometimes there will be that little Kojima pop-up on the screen to explain what a thing is or a person is, and it's still stupid.
I've been wanting to play because when it came out, like there were video essayists going nuts. Like this is a masterpiece game.
It is a game.
But then I rarely heard people being like, "Oh, it's really fun. I'm having a lot of fun playing this." You know what I mean? Like you hear about these things and they're supposed, like when you heard it a lot when Heavy Rain came out.
Yeah.
People are like, this is moving the medium forward. And you're like, all right, yeah, cool. Is it fun though?
I actually kind of like the gameplay loop. I will say that.
Okay.
The gameplay loop is kind of fun, but it's still basically just walk from this place to this place in the safest way that you can.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what Zelda is too. So,
Well, yeah, but without combat. There's no combat at all.
Okay.
At least I've found.
Really? Okay.
It's entirely walk, survive.
Yeah.
If there is,
so it's just like real life.
Yeah, basically. Only the enemies are all invisible unless you have a fetus with you, and then you can maybe see them, but only with your detective vision.
Norman Reedus and the magical fetus.
Yes. The thing that got me though was Guillermo del Toro's character is named Dead Man, and I was like, okay, well, that's a very Kojima name. I can't imagine how they're going to top that as far as how Kojima of a name that is. And then they almost immediately introduce another character named Die Hardman. And he's wearing a skull mask. And I'm like, fucking Kojima, maybe you need an editor. Maybe that's the problem here.
Die Hardman is the name of a poorly translated villain from a 70s anime.
Right?
All right. Which I guess tracks, given Kojima's age,
Yeah.
and okay,
Yeah,
all
that's
right,
basically
I'm
it.
not used to kind of coming together, isn't it?
But no, it's neat. I don't know how far I'm going to get in it, but I might still tinker away at it from time to time, as long as it's on Game Pass anyway. I don't know if I'm prepared to buy it yet. If I do buy it, I'll probably get physical on PS4 or PS5. But
Yeah,
it is definitely a Kojima game.
I keep almost getting it. It hits like that $20 mark on Steam all the time in sales.
Would you just download it on Game Pass?
I might.
Yeah.
I might
Check it out. See if it is worth you spending the 20 first.
Yeah. Let's do the news.
Yeah.
First up, 4-player Puzzle Bobble is coming to Switch next year.
I'm so stoked for that.
Woo!
I love Puzzle Bobble.
I like a good Puzzle Bobble.
I hope they don't fuck it up like the 4-player Bubble Bobble by making it local play only right before a pandemic.
Don't advertise the multiplayer aspect of your game if you're not going to do it online.
Right.
Just don't. Creator of Wild Arms and Shadow Hearts announced a double Kickstarter for new projects inspired by their old games, and I think this is a terrible idea.
I think it's so weird. Did you look at the Kickstarter?
No. I did not.
So you know how normally when these creators of older video games make a Kickstarter, they have all these stretch goals, and it's like, if we hit this amount, we'll do this. We hit this amount, we'll do this. So they split their stretch goals so that they have the combined stretch goals and the individual stretch goals based on who chose which game for their reward. And so one of the games has reached a higher stretch goal than the other game has.
Yeah.
And it's just such a bizarre... Why did they put them in one Kickstarter instead of two?
I don't...
So weird.
It's fucking bizarre.
Yeah. Both the games look fine, though. I'm excited about both of them.
Well, we'll find out in like 5 years,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
Right. So
when I eventually get my copies, because I've already been suckered into paying for it. Because
oh no, Saturn! Oh no!
I like both of those series.
Reboot of Joe and Mac Caveman Ninja announced for all consoles.
Yeah.
So, I was saying just last week that I want more prehistoric games.
You do want more caveman.
And so I should not bitch, and I will not bitch.
Yeah, we were just talking in the Discord yesterday. I don't think you were online at the time, but several of us were commenting about how the prehistoric sections in games are frequently our least favorite parts of those games.
Oh no, what?
Yeah, we were all talking about how Isla is our least favorite Chrono Trigger character. And
what?
The prehistoric section in Live Alive is the weakest section of that game because
y'all suck.
Because the characters haven't invented language yet, so they all just grunt at each other.
Y'all suck. Tom Hanks has released an Apple Arcade exclusive game called Hanks 101.
Yep.
And it's a trivia game about Tom Hanks.
No, it's not about Tom Hanks either.
Oh, I thought it was about Tom Hanks.
No, it's just a trivia game. It's just trivia.
Does he write the questions?
Maybe.
I mean,
like the pictures on the Apple App Store for it all seem to have like pop culture questions, but pictures that are not about the question, but hint at what the answer is.
This is bizarre.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, what are you doing? What are you doing, man?
He's making a game.
I'm not upset. I'm just confused. I just don't get it. Tencent and Sony have raised their investment stake in From Software.
That's worrying.
Yeah.
They're up to what, like 1/3 ownership now, I think?
It's Sony is just I'm waiting for them to scoop up From Software.
Yeah, it's it's weird that Sony keeps scooping up studios and they keep working out exclusive deals on PS4 and PS5, and yet they're trying to block the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger because they say that that Call of Duty being exclusive on Xbox would be completely unfair.
Even though Microsoft has promised that there would be parity for a certain amount of time.
At least 5 years, they said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
TGS Leak reveals a Radiant Silvergun logo. It is currently unknown if it's a new game or another re-release.
Treasure had hinted they had an upcoming game for TGS, so it looks like it is Radiant related, at least.
I will take more Radiant.
Seriously. I'm with you.
Split screen co-op for Halo Infinite has been canceled by fucking liars who lied to me.
Justin, any day now, they're totally going to do this thing.
First of all, 343 Interactive can eat a bag of shit. Second of all, Microsoft can eat another bag of shit because they're letting 343 do this shit. 343 are the ones being told to do these things.
What if it's the same bag of shit and they have to share it?
Well, I assume one of them would eat it, shit it out into a bag, and the other one would have to then eat the shit bag.
Can they just go back and forth eating shit forever?
So here's my thing.
It is late enough in the night that was funny to me. I don't know what's going on here.
Halo Infinite came out. They said co-op campaign is coming.
Yeah.
Local multiplayer, split screen, local co-op is coming. They have yet to deliver. They said spring, I think. They've yet to deliver online co-op. I was very excited to play online co-op. That's how I play all the Halo campaigns. Was not an option.
Yeah.
They've pushed it. So I don't believe them about that because they already said it was going to be coming out, and then it didn't. And here's the thing. Halo is not a small franchise from Microsoft.
It's not?
And then 343 comes out, and they says... And as for the split screen co-op, we're removing it entirely. Not only are we removing it, we are removing it to refocus those efforts on our live service portion of the game. Let me reiterate. They've come out, said they're removing a local feature to focus those resources on a live service portion of the game. As if there's some tiny fucking indie studio with 15 goddamn people working there, and they don't have enough resources to do both.
Well, look, Microsoft has to devote their money towards their important, successful franchises like Solitaire.
If I was Microsoft, I would bring this whole project in-house and figure out what the fuck is going on.
Well, they own 343. It's already in-house.
I mean, put it at a different studio within Microsoft.
Right.
Like, get someone else in the door being like, what is going on that we're canceling features on what should be our biggest franchise?
Somebody had pointed out, like, how many studios within Microsoft now are known for FPS games, and they still keep giving Halo to 343. Like, they own id, they own... I can't remember all the ones they listed, but there was like 7 or 8 that Raven Software they're about to own because of the Activision thing, plus all the other Activision studios that do FPS. So,
it makes me very angry. It makes me very frustrated. It's fumbling. Halo is like Nintendo fumbling Mario. Yeah. Like it's a big deal. And this has been an ongoing fumble that has been fumbled since the day the game came out. Additionally, when the game came out, they had the live service thing, and they were like, oh, here's our fucking battle pass.
Yeah.
And then after people bought the battle pass, they said, oh, people aren't happy with the progression in the game. It's taking too long to grind out levels. We're going to fix it. And when they fucking fixed it, they didn't refund battle passes to anyone that had bought the goddamn battle pass and been spinning their wheels. I'm just so mad. I'm just... Fuck off. Fuck off. Speaking of fucking off, something is going to fuck off that I asked to fuck off, and it's Mario Kart Tour is removing its gacha mechanics and adding a battle mode, which is also bullshit.
Yeah, but...
It's good news, but also... What about all those people that did spend money on the gacha mechanics? Like, won't they feel like they're just getting shit on?
No. Okay, so the answer to what about those people is thank you for your money.
It's fuck them.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah, pretty much.
And finally... Evercade EXP handheld will include 18 built-in Capcom classics. I love that the Evercade is doing well.
Yeah. However, there is apparently some controversy about this.
Oh, no.
Some Evercade fans are upset because the only way to get those games on the Evercade is to buy this new handheld where they are built in, whereas all the previous Evercade releases have been those little cartridges.
Now, is this effectively the same handheld?
Apparently, it is close enough to the same, yeah.
Okay, so that is kind of shit. Like if it was actually an upgrade, they're like, "Hey, this is our next thing."
Right. It is. Okay. It is a slight tweak, but it is mostly the same. From my understanding, I could be wrong. However, it looks like the reason is because Capcom themselves have said no physical release, but they were willing to license for this, and they are hoping that seeing the sales numbers of this will help convince Capcom to later release these games on cartridges. So we'll see.
Well, that brings us to the topic at hand. This week we are talking Mechwarrior 4, which is the fourth game in the Mechwarrior franchise that is comprised of completely original IP and did not borrow anything from anywhere else.
Oh, what's the subtitle of this one?
It's Vengeance.
Oh, not Revengeance?
No, they haven't. It's the first Vengeance.
They
haven't gotten to the Revengeance.
Got it.
But we'll be talking about the expansions for it as well, because they it's going to all be in here.
The entirety of the MechWarrior 4 universe.
I do want to start with two things. First, a glossary.
Great. Let me write this down.
Which you were literally just bitching about earlier in the show. Battletech is the name of the IP that the Mechwarrior games are based in.
Right.
It is also the name of the recent-ish strategy game set in the Battletech universe put out by Harebrained Scheme.
It's funny because you've been mentioning Battletech on the show for like 2 or 3 months straight, and then finally tonight, as we're doing a Battletech themed episode, you're like, oh no, I'm done with all that. I've moved on to bugs.
Well, no, I'm still doing Battletech. Mechwarrior, the name of the first-person simulation computer games in the Battletech franchise.
Right.
But Mechwarrior is also what an individual mech pilot is called in universe.
Right.
And finally, you have Mech Assault, which is also a Battletech game that includes Mechwarriors piloting mechs.
Right.
But it is a more arcade-style game. All that said, as far as accuracy, the Battletech IP is extremely complex. It has been running consistently for over 30 years and includes nearly 100 novels. That's not even counting source books and games and RPGs and video games and everything else. It's like 96 novels right now.
And
they're still releasing them. So we're just going to get things wrong. It's just going to happen.
I was planning on just ignoring story personally. Because I know so little about it. And even having played the game, it still doesn't make sense to me. And all the characters sound like they were talking gibberish the whole time.
Even little things. The Battletech community, I've learned, is one of those communities that cares a whole lot about canonicity.
And terminology.
And extreme details. And we'll talk more about it later. But just for anybody that may be a Battletech fan, we are absolutely going to get shit wrong, say shit wrong, misunderstand shit, use the wrong terminology, etc.
I may intentionally do so.
Saturn usually intentionally does so. So, as far as release info, developed by FASA Interactive, published by Microsoft for Windows 95, 98, ME 2000. It hit North America November 22nd, 2000, European territories February 2nd, 2001. There were 2 expansions for the game, Mechwarrior 4 Black Knight, which required Mechwarrior 4 Vengeance.
The traditional expansion.
There's a standalone expansion called Mechwarrior 4 Mercenaries that is effectively a new game, just built with the exact same engine.
Right.
Pretty much. Black Knight came out October 31st, 2001. Mercenaries came out November 7th, 2002.
I like that we cover so few PC games of this era that you just took a moment to define what an expansion and a standalone expansion were.
Leave me alone! As far as first encounters, the reason we did this episode is that I thought for the longest time that I grew up playing Mechwarrior 4. But the inability to play Mechwarrior 3 or 4 has made it so that I was never able to check.
Yeah.
After finally getting Mechwarrior 4 working, I was able to confirm that it was Mechwarrior 3 that I grew up with. So this was my first time playing Mechwarrior 4.
Yeah, I had played most of them, like not extensively. I don't think I played Mechwarrior 1, actually. I may have rented it on Super NES at one point. But I played a bit of Mechwarrior 2 at a friend's house using a proper Sidewinder joystick, which he insisted was the only correct way to play it.
Yeah.
And then he had burned me a copy of Mechwarrior 3, which I played a little bit. And I just remember it being very slow and complicated, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I picked up Mechwarrior 4 when it went Game of the Year, because for some reason my Mechwarrior friend never mentioned it to me. He just stopped trying to sell me on Mechwarrior. And so I picked up Mechwarrior 4, and I actually kind of enjoyed it. Like I installed it, played around with it, and thought it was pretty fun. And then I mentioned it to him later that I thought it was pretty fun. He was like, oh, I don't like that one. So I was upset that the one that I was enjoying, he didn't want to play.
Yeah. Getting Mechwarrior 4 running, I never got it running in Windows properly.
Oh, I just installed it on Windows 11 and it worked.
I hate you.
Yeah, it looks like poop, but it works.
Getting it running in Linux was easier. I played all of my time with the game has been on my Steam Deck using a controller and the touchpads. But there is a high likelihood that if you want to play this game, you're gonna have to look up how to do it. Yeah. And I recommend Reddit comment threads. It seems to be the best documentation.
Or apparently just install it on Windows 11.
Or apparently just be fucking Saturn, who just every PC game works. I remember when we did Legacy of Kain, I tried to play it on PC, and I was like, it literally does not work.
And then I just immediately send you a screenshot of it working.
And you were like, what are you talking? I had to return the game. I could not get it to run. And I had emails with the support, and you're like, runs fine. I was using multiple computers. I don't know what the fuck you're doing over there.
Yeah, it's just fine. It's a working game. What?
Let's do story in canon.
I wonder if it's because you have your start bar or your task bar on the wrong part of the screen. It's just fucking everything up.
I like it on the top.
Yeah, you're just ruining your computer that way.
Like most BattleTech related properties, the story is very complex. It's a very long, complex history of war, different fancy house names, and various characters with long, complicated names.
Yeah, I tried to follow the story.
It's incomprehensible.
Yeah,
no,
it makes no sense.
Incomprehensible.
I just know that the evil guy has a goatee. That's the only thing I was able to make sense of.
Well, see, here's the thing. The FMV didn't work for me.
Oh, really? Oh, man, it's so bad. You need to go watch the FMVs.
I've seen some of it, but I missed most of it.
Oh, it's so bad.
So actually recounting the story would be more like a military history lecture. So we're not going to do that. But basically, you play Ian Dressari, who's trying to take back a system that House Steiner has taken.
It's the guy from Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah. Okay. Various mech warriors join you on your mission along the way. And again, it does appear that various people meet up with you and they all have FMV segments, but they didn't work for me.
Oh. Yeah, the FMV, okay, let me just say.
They worked exactly one time, and I was like, oh, FMV. Then they never worked again, and I didn't notice till several hours later, and I was like, wait a minute, wasn't there FMV for like a second? And then it was just gone.
So this game came out in 2000. I didn't play it until like 01 or 02, something like that. Maybe even 03. It was a few years after the game came out. It was after it already switched from big box PC to little box PC. And so by the time that I'd played the game, I had already played stuff like Final Fantasy X and Metal Gear Solid 2 and, PS2, Xbox era games, right? I think I'd already played Mech Assault by the time I played it. The FMVs in this, despite being in slightly higher video quality, look like they are Sega CD quality FMVs. These are poorly acted. It is the worst green screen special effects. It is so bad. And then they just, quote, seamlessly transition into these really low polygon CG bits, which look worse than the game itself. And they're hilarious. I love them.
I was not treated to those.
Oh, I love them so much. They're unintentionally bad in the same way as Resident Evil. Not as fun as Resident Evil, but still really bad. It's great.
The Black Knight expansion has Ian Dressari, who has become the Duke of the Kentari's Force system, facing revolution. By the end, Duke Ian Dressari is overthrown, and allegiances have shifted, and et cetera, et cetera. Black Knight does have some minor branching story paths. There's like a few different points where you can make different decisions, kind of change things. And then Mechwarrior 4 Mercenaries has a full 15 different campaigns, each with their own relevant story details that I just can't be bothered to fucking unravel.
Things happened.
But it's kind of a more modular game where you're a mercenary named Spectre. You're sponsored by a larger mercenary group that you choose, and you go on various missions, and antics ensue, and blah, 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 blah. As far as canon, for the uninitiated, none of the BattleTech / Mechwarrior video games are considered official canon. And this is the weird part. Even though a huge amount of the characters, events, and places are correct within the canon, and this is how picky people in this fandom are, Mechwarrior 4 Vengeance in particular is treated as non-canon because one battle is shorter than it is supposed to be, and there is an alternate ending where someone rises to a rank that they do not have in the official canon.
That's how alternate endings work.
And the expansions have varying levels of canonicity.
Yeah.
But the reason these aren't canon, it's little things, like literally like, no, that battle went on for 3 days, but in the game it went on for 2 hours. And it's like, people are very particular about their BattleTech canon Saturn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like none of it has any, like if you do play the game and you're like, hey, the story, I'm kind of interested in the story. The BattleTech lore is more of that.
Yeah.
Just as far as canon goes.
Does the rest of BattleTech have better acting?
Well, the only like live action video anything is the video games.
Oh,
and I'll say
so no.
the BattleTech strategy video game has a really good story and interesting characters, and it's pretty well voice acted.
Well, that's good.
Mechwarrior 5 is also okay. Everything before that
Is bad.
You've seen the best of.
Yeah, I know.
I'll say that. Let's talk development. There's not a lot of development information for MechWarrior 4, but I did find an interview with the game's producer, TJ Wagner. But the interview and everything that I can find refers to him as Pain God. Because
the name is Quake Clan.
This is early 2000s PC gaming, so people have to, no, my name is Fatality.
But spelled with a 1.
It can't be your real name.
Yeah.
But most of the interview is the interviewer complaining about the game and bitching about stuff being overpowered. But Wagner does state that it was their intent to make MechWarrior 4 friendly and more accessible. And by most accounts, they were pretty successful. Accessibility is kind of one of the high points in reviews for MechWarrior 4.
Yeah, I would say the same, because MechWarrior 3 is difficult and slow.
Yeah. MechWarrior 4 feels almost arcadey.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Like especially if you go back and you play Mechassault and you're like, it's a little too arcadey. I want like a little bit of big robot.
Yeah.
This has that.
Yeah, moving around isn't too bad, but it does feel faster than maybe a robot should be able to move around.
Yeah.
But it's still fun.
Allegedly, MechWarrior 4 was originally meant to be MechWarrior 3, but MechWarrior...
Yeah, everything that I saw also backed this up too.
Yeah. MechWarrior 3 wasn't meeting deadlines. I can't find anything super definitive on this. But yeah, basically, Zipper Interactive, the Crimson Skies people, were tapped to make a stopgap game.
Yeah.
And that became MechWarrior 3 while the MechWarrior 4 was finished.
Yeah.
And we cannot discuss BattleTech without discussing FASA.
Right.
Which is the company that launched and ran the BattleTech franchise until it died.
Yeah.
So allegedly, FASA owners decided of their own free will to close the company in 2001 due to concerns over the market, despite the fact they claim it was still financially viable, which I don't fucking believe for any amount of time.
Yeah, 9/11 happened, and they were just like, we're out. We're done with
BattleTech, the property, was then sold to WizKids. WizKids licensed it to FanPro and then Catalyst Game Labs. Later, Topps bought WizKids, but continued honoring current licensing agreements.
And this happened in the middle of the game and its expansions, because after the first game, FASA was gone, right?
Shit got weird, yeah. The rights to BattleTech were sold to WizKids, who made a new miniatures game with it, and then licensed the rights to publish old tabletop BattleTech stuff to FanPro, which was called BattleTech Classic to differentiate it. And then Topps bought WizKids in 2003. Eventually, Catalyst Game Labs got the license from Topps for Classic BattleTech, and they continue to hold the license to now. The history is much more complex than that. I probably got bits of it wrong or mixed them around. But yeah, basically, it's a rights nightmare, and this is not even accounting for the series of lawsuits from Harmony Gold that they dealt with in the 90s leading up to this. In 2007, Jordan Weissman, the founder of FASA, one of the founders of FASA, licensed the video game rights to MechWarrior, Shadowrun, and Crimson Skies from Microsoft in some sort of attempt to update existing titles and presumably make new ones, and he founded a company called Smith & Tinker. In 2009, he announced that all the MechWarrior 4 games would be free via MechTech, which was a fan collective working to make the games compatible with modern hardware and restore online functionality, but only MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries was offered. To date, most of these efforts have kind of disintegrated. A lot of the websites are dead. The free offer has been removed. And the MechTech version of MechWarrior 4 is still available.
I couldn't even get their website to come up through Internet Archive.
I think what I found was a mirror of something.
Okay.
But you can find Mechwarrior 4 Mercenaries Mech Tech version if you Google around for it a little bit. So now we could talk about the game.
There's a game?
There is a game. And I guess we can start with the presentation. We've talked about the FMV a little bit. The menus and interface, like outside of a mech, are pretty Spartan. They do feel a little bit more robust than Mechwarrior 3, but the actual, like, once you're in the game, the mech UI, which is where you spend the majority of your time, it's I feel like it's about as tidy and information forward as piloting a 30+ ton walking munitions depot could actually be, you know?
There was something about Microsoft published games of this era that all seem to have a similar visual aesthetic, especially for menus and fonts and things like that. They all seem to have just little bits that were similar enough that they all gave that Microsoft vibe. And this definitely is one of them that fits that.
The missions themselves kind of range in objective types. There's a good bit of kind of just walking around finding the shit you're there to find. And it can be a little tedious. I do kind of like that it gives you, because you're not thrown right in the shit, you kind of have options if you want to kind of keep some distance or try to be sort of stealthier, take different angles. But it's a lot of, that kind of early aughts design of like, we can do huge open spaces now, but like we can't really put a lot of stuff in them.
However, it does have little people that run around on the floor.
Yes.
And they are
That's great.
Completely invincible to everything.
Yeah, which is the opposite of truth in Battletech, in case you needed to know that.
Even in the older Mechwarrior games, you could kill the little people.
Yeah.
And this one, for some reason, they will just walk right through your leg, and they will ignore your bullets. It's weird, but kind of adorable.
I felt like the music was appropriate. It's just kind of a mix of like butt rock and atmospheric music, and it works.
It felt like giant robot music to me,
Yeah, for sure. And visually, I think it holds up. The polys do kind of show a little bit.
Right.
But it's still really easy to tell which weapons are being fired by their color and visual presentation. All the mechs look pretty different from one another. Almost all of the environmental objects are destructible, which is really cool for a game of this era.
Oh, yeah. It was really impressive for that era.
And I think it still looks pretty good. And the Mech Tech version looks even better because it's moderately upgraded.
Neat.
I think it's still a nice looking game. As far as gameplay,
there is.
You really only have two functioning modes these days, which is campaign and instant action. The campaign in Vengeance is pretty much totally straightforward. It's linear connected missions. You're rewarded salvage along the way to build up your forces.
Oh, you mean straightforward gameplay wise, not story wise?
No, not story-wise, but just mission structure-wise. It's like, you did that one, here's the next one. There's no...
It's definitely not straightforward story-wise.
No. But it's like, all right, you finished the mission. Now here's your next mission. You just keep going. Mech damage and repairs are basically totally disregarded. In between missions, you don't have to... Like, you can customize your mech.
Right.
But they're not like, oh,
weapon loadout or whatever.
They're not like, oh, you're damaged, or this mech got destroyed, you can't use it anymore, or whatever. Mercenaries is totally different. Mercenaries, you have ongoing campaign funds. You have to repair your mechs and replace mechs in between missions, which makes it feel a little more realistic, I guess.
I never played either of the expansions, so I was not aware of that.
Yeah, Mercenaries is very much a different game. The actual minute-to-minute gameplay, like Mechwarrior 3, it's in Mechwarrior 2 and 1, it's mostly strafing, swapping targets, watching your heat build up, managing weapon groups. And that's it. If you played Mechwarrior 3, it's that, but a little snappier, a little faster, a little more responsive. And there's a pretty wide range of targets that are not just mechs, which is cool. There's lots of like weapon emplacements and what do they call the helicopters? VTOLs. They're called VTOLs, which is neat. You're not just like one-on-one with mech. A lot of missions, you don't even see mechs for a lot of them. You're just kind of dealing with missile turrets and shit like that. I do really like the customization. So in between missions, you can take your salvaged gear and you can swap it out on your mechs if you want.
Right.
And it uses this like colored slot system.
Yeah.
So you'll have a slot and it's between 1 and like 4 slots high, and it's a color. And any weapon that is that many slots or less, you can fit in there as long as it's the right color.
Right.
And I really like this system a lot. It's kind of in between being really customizable, but also being really easy to identify what can go where.
Yeah.
Because like in the 2016 strategy game, Battletech, it's sometimes customizing stuff. You're like, well, where can this even go? Where are all the different hard points? You know, all right, well, I got to put this ammo for it. It goes in a separate section and can only go in specific. It's just a little more complex. This is that really good middle ground of like, you match up the colors and the numbers, and then there you go.
And from what I remember of the older ones, which again, I'm not an expert on them, but from what I remember on 2 and 3 was you could almost put any weapon anywhere as long as you had enough points for it. So there wasn't like specific weapons for specific slots, if I remember right.
I don't remember 2 and 3, so I couldn't tell you. But this is definitely like slightly more complex than that.
Yeah.
But still way less complex than like even what it is now. Even like Mechwarrior 5, like it's more complex.
Yeah, I liked it in this one. I felt like it was just easy enough that I didn't have to research what any of the weapons were, and I could just shove whatever I wanted in there and probably survive.
There's the concern in like the Harebrained Schemes BattleTech game where I feel like I'm always worried about fucking my mech up. I'm always worried that I'm going to put in some kind of like dumb stuff that doesn't work right together or doesn't make sense. Yeah. Sometimes I've put in weapons but forgot to like, I put in an LRM, but I had SRM ammo in there because I had an SRM and I swapped it for an LRM. Right. Well, now I got to go back and and it's just, it can be a little tedious. Yeah. Customizing everything out and figuring it all out. This game also does not have any melee combat whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
they're giant robots. What are they going to do? Punch each other?
Well, yes.
Oh.
In the BattleTech universe, melee is a very big part of combat.
Yeah, but what if I shoot you first before you get over here?
Right, but if I don't die, I'm going to fucking kick you and you're going to fall over.
I'm just going to keep on shooting you. If you walk into it, it's your own fault.
Well, and I'm just going to start moving my arms like this. So in BattleTech, the idea is that so many years of fighting and wars have regressed technology. So all mechs are usually centuries old and have seen many, many, many battles and wars and been passed around, right? Because depending on the era, they don't have technology to make new ones.
Yeah.
And they also don't have technology to, like theoretically a laser beam will just shoot all the way like off into the horizon.
Right.
But you have to be close for a laser beam in BattleTech. And obviously the reason is because it wouldn't be fun to sit on different continents and shoot laser beams and nukes at each other. Right. That's dumb. So they come up with story reasons to be like, well, why can't we do that? And so basically the mythos of BattleTech, the canon, creates excuses for you to get into kind of moderate range of one another and strafe around to make it exciting.
And I wonder if maybe it is influenced by the era in which it came from, where BattleTech originated, because having recently been playing through Horizon, where the whole backstory of the game is about a robot apocalypse and about how the military decided that it was not viable to keep sending humans out there when we could just have drone-controlled robots. And I think, today, if BattleTech had started today, would everybody be like, well, that's not realistic to put a person in there. That's dangerous.
Yeah. But BattleTech was very much like, hey, we want to have these gladiator fights where you're relatively close. Yeah. And then a lot of times you're closing the gap and you're hitting each other.
Right.
Because in Mechwarrior 4, sometimes you get right up on the other person.
Yeah.
And
not if I can help it, though.
And you could just stand there and blast it. And you're just standing there inches away, just blasting each other, being like, who's going to die first? When, later games, it's like, there's things like Death from Above, which is where you use your jump jets and land on another mech. You can kick, you can punch. There are melee weapons. There's a mech just called the Hatchetman because it has a big fucking axe. It just runs over there and hits you with an axe.
Yeah,
it's dumb and nonsensical, but it's fun.
In any game where I can be, I am always a long-range person. So I enjoyed that about this, because I will always stay as far away from my opponent as I can and just hope that my missiles connect.
That's usually my plan in BattleTech. I really like PPCs and LRMs. Like usually I'm just PPC volleys and then strategic, or LRM volleys and then strategic PPC shots. Yeah. I do think the heat buildup in this also is pretty forgiving. You have to kind of almost be trying to shut your mech down, unless you're playing like one of the crazy mechs that have like the Awesome has 3 PPCs and you can fire it like twice and then your shit shuts down. But for the most part, like, heat's a minor concern.
Yeah, I don't recall it being a major issue for me.
And in later games, it's more reflective of the tabletop game, where heat is a much bigger concern. And it's something you really need to keep your eye on and really need to kind of plan the construction of your mech and the weapons you put on it. Where for it feels a little more lenient in that regard.
Yeah.
But the not having melee, I guess because I'm playing the later games. Like Mechwarrior 5, I don't think it even had it till it got an expansion for it. But playing the later games and doing the melee stuff, I do notice it missing in 4 now, kind of going back. Also playing the tabletop, which there's melee in the tabletop, and it's fun.
So it sounds like the guy accomplished what he was after in trying to make it more accessible.
It definitely feels really accessible.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I know nothing about BattleTech as a universe.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
I think they absolutely achieved that. I do want to talk about difficulty, because the missions start pretty easy, but then very quickly ramp up to feeling like completely insurmountable.
Yeah, that's what I choose.
For me, anyway, at my skill level. Yeah, the game very much assumes you're heavily into customizing and tweaking your mechs to maintain effectiveness, and you're tweaking them for the specific mission. But thankfully, the options menu, you just open the options and you can turn off heat buildup, ammo depletion, and or damage altogether.
I do all of them.
And so, yeah, I eventually did too. But what I like about it, because I'm always complaining about cheats, but then also complaining when they do too much, because I still want to feel like I'm playing a game.
Not me.
What I love about invulnerability here is that your mech's on-screen display still shows the damage you would be taking as if it were turned off. And I really, really like this kind of cheating, because it means that I still have a motivation to play skillfully.
Right.
Because then at the end of the mission, I can look and be like, oh, I would have made it out alive. Or like, oh, I definitely would. I definitely did bad. Like, it's some type of measure on how well I'm doing still. Because when you're just being invulnerable, sometimes it's hard to tell, like, am I actually getting better at this game, or I just fucking cheat? Like, what am I doing here? Yeah,
that's fair.
And I really like that. Yeah, so it's weird to me that it was, it just had that. I just opened the options to customize control, and it was like, hey, you want to cheat? And I'm like, yes.
Cheats were still pretty common in PC games at the time.
Oh, it just makes me sad that they're not now.
Yeah, it upsets me
Very
that
sad.
they're not now.
I think gameplay-wise, this one's really up there.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of Mechwarrior 5 lately, and it's real good.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's a little more complex.
Yeah.
Than this one, in a good way, I think.
And even this feels slightly more complex than what I normally want out of a giant mech game, because I am looking for even more arcadey than this. Mech Assault was more my speed, as well as Armored Core and stuff like that. But I still, this was approachable enough that I could still enjoy it.
Absolutely, and I felt really kind of empowered to customize things. Yeah. When I saw how easy it was to just snap shit in and out of there, and I don't have to worry about, like, oh, did I put dumb things on this? Does this not work? Like, not having to worry about heat sinks. Yeah. Because in newer Mechwarrior games, it's like, oh, you need to physically put on the number of heat sinks you want to have to control how much heat you're able to remove.
That sounds like a pain in the ass.
And it is kind of a pain in the, on the one hand, it's cool. Like, it's fun to really get down in the dirt and really like customize it out. But then sometimes you're like, I just don't want to stress about it.
Right.
It's annoying whenever I've customized this mech and I get into a battle and I'm like, oh, I forgot to redo my heat sinks, and I fire my weapons one time and then it's like, emergency shutdown. You're like, well, shit.
Right.
I think of the BattleTech games I've played, it strikes the best balance between still feeling like BattleTech. You're still customizing robots and salvaging stuff, especially Mercenaries with its much more complex campaign and ongoing kind of money system, and you can go buy stuff. There's a shop you can just go buy things in. I think Mercenaries is probably, were it not a bitch to find and download and install, it would be if someone was talking to me like, hey, I kind of, I'm interested in like the Mechwarrior games, I would be like, oh yeah, start with Mechwarrior 4 Mercenaries. If you like it, you want it a little more modern and crunchy, go play Mechwarrior 5.
I wish there weren't all the legal hurdles in re-releasing it today.
It's got to be insane.
Oh yeah,
I can't even imagine what the rights to this look like.
Right.
It's got to be the worst.
Yeah.
As far as reception, it was generally received very well.
Oh, yeah.
Most publications gave it somewhere in the 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 range. Yep. Black Knight tended to score lower, but it was still generally positive. Mercenaries also scored well. It was nominated for some Game of the Year awards, but lost out to some forgotten gems like Half-Life, Counter-Strike, Diablo 2, The Sims.
These unknown games.
Some of these little things. Yeah. But it seems to be pretty well remembered.
Yeah.
There was,
at the time, it was seen as like a renaissance of Mechwarrior for a brief moment there in the PC world, but and then Mech Assault showed up and everybody immediately forgot.
It's it's sad.
Yeah.
As far as legacy, there was the arcade port by Tsunami Visual that came out a little bit later, and it was played in the little cockpit style pod cabinet thing,
which looks
like
so
the
cool.
earlier BattleTech arena pods, which I've still never been in one.
I have not encountered a Mechwarrior 4 one, but I so want to now.
Yeah, and we talked about the MechTech PC re-release, and it's also dead because BattleTech. So, as far as final thoughts, I think Vengeance and Black Knight feel a little bare bones.
Yeah.
But I think Mercenaries, with the MechTech upgrades and with the much more robust campaign system, is genuinely a really, really good BattleTech experience.
But does it have the FMVs?
I did not see any FMVs.
Well, then just throw it in the trash.
And I didn't see a spot where they would have been, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I think Mercenaries is really good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Mercenaries in the past too, but I've never gotten around to playing it, so I can't speak to that. I've only played the base game myself.
Gameplay-wise, like actually minute-to-minute gameplay in the world, you wouldn't know you were playing a different game.
Oh, okay.
It's the damn same. It's just presented better and has an actual campaign.
Nice.
Yeah,
I didn't expect to enjoy it when I first picked it up back in the day, and ended up spending more time on it than I had anticipated. So I would still probably go with a faster paced mech game, just given the choice of everything. But as far as because this was back in the era when PC gaming and console gaming still felt distinctly different.
Oh yeah.
And as far as PC mech game, I expected it to be more complex than what I was getting on console, and it was exactly that. It was what I went into it wanting and getting. So I was pretty pleased with it back then.
Absolutely. I think it's a great place to start. I was kind of bouncing back and forth between the newest Mechwarrior 5, which is a very impressive, very fun game, and Mercenaries.
Nice.
Just because it definitely has that high level of accessibility that the new game doesn't quite care to tackle in the same way.
It's a shame.
It is a shame, but you know what's not a shame, Saturn?
Your
Our
segues?
Patreon at patreon.com/retrowarriors, where you can get other things.
Other things.
If you want, you can download them, you can listen to them, and you can feel satisfied in the knowledge.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say you can feel the love tonight.
You can feel the love tonight. You can feel satisfied in the knowledge that you've helped independent creators continue to yell obscenities on the internet.
Which, to be fair, we were going to do anyway.
Yeah, no, we were going to do it anyway. But then, you can give us money for a thing we were going to do anyway. And that just sounds like a deal, right?
For us.
The following people have engaged in that deal, and we want to thank them, starting with Adam Williams.
And Chris Courage.
Platform Agnostic.
The Real Skizzleman.
Chris.
Dilf Toast Esquire.
Neon Rocket Ship.
Khonshu.
Ebucel,
and Sean S.
are all the presumable humans we want to thank for their kind donations to
Probably
the show.
not dogs.
We don't have a way to know for sure, but we are pretty confident. Anyway, that's it. That's Mechwarrior 4.
That's all of it.
We didn't talk about the mech pack.
Oh, you know what we forgot to talk about?
What?
There's robots.
There are robots. Yeah. Actually, they're battle mechs.
Oh, my bad.
Yo.
Oh, you know what we forgot?
What?
There's battle mechs.
Well, you got your Mechwarrior piloting your battle mech in your battle tech, right? But Mechwarrior is the name of the game in which you play Mechwarriors in their battle mechs, which is based on battle tech.
What if they assault each other?
Well, then obviously that would be a Mechwarrior and a battle mech doing a mech assault in mech assault, which is within battle tech. Right.
I'm going to need you to draw a diagram.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.